Last time, you remember, Rocky deduced from certain tracks on the beach of New Greenpernt that the fortune-telling Oogle had been bird-napped.
And it looks like 2 sets of Oogle tracks.
Out of the question, kid. There's only one Oogle bird in the whole world.
Then how come this other set of tracks?
Beats me.
Yo, it's a real enigma.
A what, Bullwinkle?
An enigma.
What's that mean?
I don't know. I just made it up.
But at that very moment, on a lonely island miles away, the Oogle was being held captive by none other than your fiend and my fiend, Boris Badenov.
But, darling, how did you coax Oogle Bird away from island?
Was easy, Natasha.
And Boris explained just how he had birdnapped the Greenpernt Oogle. A short time ago, passing himself off as past president of the Lompoc Birdwatcher Society, he had gained access to the Oogle Bird's nest at the top of Mount Pitkin. But as he neared the nest, he underwent a surprising transformation.
Allow me to introduce myself, my dear lady. Charles Oogle, star of stage, screen, and television. Let me take you away from this cold mountain top. Come with me to my nest in the Casbah. Come, fly with me, moi petit osseux. Well, maybe we better walk in state. Like you say, kiddo. Oogle, 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 oogle.
And so, blinded by infatuation, the Oogle Bird had willingly eloped with the disguised Boris. Once on his deserted island, though, things were different.
Okay, sweetheart. Honeymoon is over. Let's get to work. Never mind the baby talk. Lay an egg.
And Boris began to use the poor Oogle Bird for his own nefarious purposes.
And now for 64 grains of corn. What rich man will be away from his house at midnight tonight? Get message, Natasha.
Here it is, darling. Although against my will I picked him, Claude the Peister is your victim.
So that night, many miles away, Boris paid a secret call on a large mansion. Next day, the headlines blared the shocking news of an enormous jewel robbery at the De Peister residence.
100,000. Natasha, at last we really got it made.
And Boris's next question to the Oogle Bird was even more sinister.
Hey, short and ugly, what will be easiest bank to break into tonight?
And of course, the Oogle Bird had to answer.
The bank's address, you dirty cheat, is 1820 Flugel Street.
Sure enough, that night, Boris did break into a small bank at 1820 Flugel Street.
16 pennies and 2 buttons, darling. Not so good.
Natasha, it's not the amount. It's just being able to do a little something bad each day.
But Boris received a severe jolt when the bird's next prediction read...
The Oogle Bird says happy day. Rocky Squirrel is on the way.
Oh, shut up, you beak.
Sure enough, a speedy boat bearing our heroes and King Bushwick were headed right toward Boris's hideout.
Are you sure this is the place?
Sure. Look, it's the only island around here with a mountain high enough for an Oogle Bird to live on.
Good thinking, Jack.
Rocky.
Yeah, Rocky.
But it looked as if their approach wouldn't go unchallenged, for Boris had trained a number of large guns on them, and as their boat reached the crest of a wave, Boris fired. Fortunately, as the shells sped on their way, our heroes slid into the trough of the wave, and the shells passed overhead harmlessly.
Boy, look at that, Rock.
You know, I don't think we're exactly welcome on this island.
Well, that is the understatement of the year. Oh, what crooked thing does Boris have up his sleeve now?
My elbow, what else?
Be with us next time for the Sandblasters or Big Bang on the Beach.
And now...
Hey, Rocky, watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat.
Again?
Nothing up my sleeve. Presto! Ooh, don't know my own strength.
Now here's something we hope you'll really like.
What's wrong, Junior?
How do you like that, Pop? I found a bee in a jar, and when I let him go free, he bit me.
Son?
I know, Dad. You got a moral for that.
Right. No gratitude is to be expected from the wicked. That sort of gets you, doesn't it?
He sure did.
As a further example of that adage, let me tell the fable of the lion and the aardvark.
The lion and the what?
Aardvark. Ask anyone and they'll tell you that a forest is a kingdom. And when you have a kingdom, you must have a...
Aardvark.
No. A king, or lion if you prefer. For they are the kings of all animals.
So you got hit by a truck, did you?
Yeah, Your Majesty.
Well, what do you expect me to do about it? I can't help it if you're clumsy.
Oh, sire, it isn't the pain I mind, you know. It's the humility.
You mean it's hot in here?
You don't understand. When I got hit, I fell, and I knocked 30 lashes off my right eyelid.
Is that all? Take him out and give him 30 lashes.
On my eye?
Are you kidding? On your back.
As you can see, this particular king was a tyrant. He objected to everything, especially small, inconsequential matters, such as small, inconsequential insects.
Doggone it! Who let that moth in here?
Not only was the moth persistent, he obviously had little respect for a monarch.
A moth killer. My kingdom for a moth killer.
3 of the smartest creatures in the kingdom were summoned. They were a fox, a bear, and a hoot owl, who really didn't give a hoot, but he was there anyway.
Okay, you heard what Aesop just said. You guys are supposed to be smart. Let's see you get rid of this moth.
The fox was first.
It is a well-known fact, Your Nastiness, that moths have an attraction for flames. Therefore, I will shoot this flamethrower, and the moth will commit Hoot Gibson.
That's Harry Carey.
Of course.
Wasting not a second, the fox sent a sheet of flame across the cave. But curiously enough, the moth was not the least bit attracted to the flame. He preferred Limburger.
I say, the little rascal likes cheese.
I noticed that.
Although the fox had tried his best, he met the same fate as the weasel. It was the bear's turn now.
Us bears are usually dependent upon brawn rather than brains, O liege. But in this case, I think maybe my brains can help you escape that dreaded moth.
Hoot Gibson. Of course.
Who asked you?
The bear's scheme was simple. He put an inverted fishbowl over the lion's head and instructed him to stay underwater. The moth certainly would not pester him there. But this was a moth with a purpose, and the fishbowl. Last and certainly the least was the owl.
Look, Owl, I'm tired of this goofing around, see? If you can't get rid of the moth, I'll not only give you 30 lashes, I'll give 30 lashes to every animal in the forest.
Very generous, but never fear, oh sire. I have a surefire plan. Moths breathe, right?
How should I know?
I'll take my word for it. Moths breathe. Therefore, you cut off his air supply and he'll perish.
Is that anything like dying?
Something like it. Now, what I'll do is this. I'll put a big boulder in front of the cave and shut off the airflow.
I get it. The moth will be in here, and pretty soon he'll run out of gas.
Air.
Yeah, Hoot Gibson.
Oh, there's just one other thing. Somebody's got to stay in here with the moth to make sure he doesn't fly out.
Well, it's not gonna be me, Buster.
Look, he's always following you. If you come out, he'll come out.
You're right.
Well, I guess you can tell what happened. The owl went to a nearby hill, pried loose a huge boulder, and sent it rolling at the cave. The cave was sealed off from the outside world, and so was the wicked king. As for the moth, it managed to wriggle between a small opening and flitted off to freedom.
Gee, some fable, Dad. What about the aardvark?
The which?
The aardvark. You know, you said...
Never mind what I said. The only important thing is the moral. No gratitude is to be expected from the wicked.
I have a better one, Dad.
Oh, you have what?
Yeah. A rolling stone gathers no moth.
Hoot Gibson, son.
Well, in their efforts to get the fortune-telling Oogle bird back to New Greenpernt, our heroes and King Bushwick are just about to hit the beach of Boris Badanov's island fortress.
Do you think anybody spotted us yet, Your Majesty?
Oh, I doubt it, Rocky. The island looks deserted to me.
But at that moment, the tiny boat passed a series of signs floating in the water.
Welcome, friends, and don't be nervous. We'll give you our finest service.
That's mighty thoughty. Who's the sponsor?
The Bidewee Funeral Parlor.
Die now, pay later.
Yes, up ahead on the beach, Boris seemed to be doing some last-minute gardening. Actually, of course, he was planting a pattern of deadly explosive landmines in the sand.
Just call me Green Thumb Badenoff.
Tell me, Green Thumb, darling, how do we get out of minefield?
Easy, Natasha. Just follow little flags.
And the two villains picked their twisting way through the minefield, picking up the telltale flags as they went. No sooner were they out of sight than Rocky's boat approached the shore with Bullwinkle at the helm.
Watch out for the surf, Bullwinkle.
The who?
The waves. Don't let the waves swamp the boat.
Tut, tut, Rocky. You are talking to an old riverboating moose.
You?
Certainly me. Why, many's the time I've shot the rapids in my... Oop!
I thought you were used to shooting the rapids.
Can't understand it. That's the first rapid that ever shot back.
Then, on a bluff overlooking the beach, Boris and Natasha watched as our friends struggled to drag their swamp boat to shore.
They're right at the edge of minefield, Natasha. It won't be long now.
But at that moment, Rocky was saying,
We better split up, fellas. I'll go this way. Your Majesty go that way, and Bullwinkle go straight ahead.
Right, Rock.
And Rocky and King Bushwick separated, inadvertently leaving Bullwinkle to walk through a beach full of landmines all by himself.
You sure this will work, darling?
Of course, but just to be positive.
And the wily Boris dropped a large rock down on Bullwinkle's head.
Ooh! Boy, that is the biggest hailstone I ever see.
And the now groggy moose began to stagger back and forth across the beach.
I can't watch.
But oddly enough, Boris's plan had backfired, for instead of taking a straight course across the explosives, Bullwinkle lurched aimlessly from side to side, miraculously missing every landmine on the beach.
Did it happen yet, Boris? Boris!
Meanwhile, Rocky had climbed to a high point on the island and found himself gazing at Boris's hilltop hideout.
Golly, I'll bet we find the Oogle bird in there. Oogle bird, where are you? Oogle, why don't you answer?
Little did Rocky know that the Oogle bird was high above him, tied to its nest and gagged so it couldn't make a sound.
Oh, Oogle!
And at that moment on the other side of the hilltop, Bullwinkle heard Rocky's cry.
Oogle!
Hot diggies, it's the Oogle bird. I'll answer him. Oogle, oogle, oogle!
Hokey smokes! Sounds like the Oogle bird's right over that hill. Oogle, Oogle!
Oogle, oogle, oogle!
And our two friends slowly crept up on each other through the underbrush, each thinking the other was the Oogle bird.
Oogle!
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 Oogle! Gotcha! Rocky!
Bullwinkle!
But I thought...
Well, that's certainly one on me.
Yeah, and here comes another one on you.
What?
Looky there!
Sure enough, bouncing down the mountain straight at our heroes was an enormous boulder. Closer it came, and closer, and closer.
You know, I really think you like these scary endings.
Don't miss our next episode, The Brave and the Boulder, or To Each His Stone.
And now for all of you who like to think big, here's Mr. Know-It-All.
Hello, you big thinkers, you. Today's lecture is entitled, Falling Asleep on the Job Can Lead to a Rude Awakening, or Don't Be a Somnambulist Chaser. Let us suppose first that you are an admiral in the army doing sentry duty. The condition is red, and so are your eyeballs from lack of sleep. Falling asleep here would mean you'd lose your good conduct ribbon. The best way to stay awake is rush inside the nearest shack and light a cigarette. Preferably a candy cigarette. Next, we shall take a situation often faced by test pilots. You find yourself in the latest model, with your speedometer reading half full. You are ready to go into a screaming dive. After you land, right now it is your job to break the sound barrier, or at least bend it a little. You turn on your radio and contact the tower. This is Red Letter Day, calling disabled Baker Charlie. Mayday, over. You discover to your disgust that disabled Baker Charlie has gone into a screaming dive to wait for you. Anxious to get this over with, you throw the ship into a screaming dive. Hiya, fellas. Now I ask you, who could sleep in here?
Thank you, Mr. Know-It-All, for showing us how to stay awake.
In the northern region of Canada, Dudley Do-Right was taking his annual 2-week vacation, accompanied by his horse.
I don't know what I'll do with myself for 2 weeks.
Gina, don't worry. I'll be back before long.
You must know, Dudley, that I can't stand being parted for even a day from your horse.
Well, I can't help it if his vacation corresponds with mine.
Meanwhile, in a deserted shack, Snidely Whiplash was having a trauma.
Homer, those Mounties are getting to me. I can't stand them another minute. Another minute, you hear? Wait a minute, what's a trauma?
The Mounties can't stand you either, Snidely.
You're right. The Mounties hate me like the plague, so I'll give them something to hate. Competition!
Competition?
Competition, the very thing that makes the world go round. They've been pretty smug, thinking they've cornered the Mountie market. Well, two can play at their game. Homer, I'm going to go into the Mountie business. The Snidely Whiplash Mounted Police, SWMP.
SWMP! That's got a nice ring to it, Snidely.
So Snidely Whiplash opened his camp right next door to the RCMP camp.
He can't do it. He just can't do it. Who ever heard of more than one mounted police in Canada?
But, sir, that's competition. That's the Canadian way. Besides, he says that your fence is 4 feet into his property line.
Men, I don't know how to tell you this exactly, but we're no longer the only mounted police in Canada. We are in direct competition with another mounted police whose name I won't mention. And this is the time for stalwartism, braverytism, and most important of all, always get your manitism. Oh, one more thing. From now on, there'll be shorter coffee breaks.
Snidely Mounties, you know our purpose, to prevent the other Mounties, and I won't mention their name, from always getting their man. And here's how we'll do it.
Stop, thief. You can't escape the Snidely Mounties. They always gets their man. Your purse, madam.
Some Mountie you are. Huh.
Some Mountie you are.
For a whole week, the Mounties did not get their man. This was extremely embarrassing for the Mounties, for they never let a day go by without bringing in something.
Get a man today.
No, sir, but I did manage to bring in this.
The Mounties had become the laughingstock of the town, while Snidely Mounties became the heroes of the town. What the people didn't know was that Snidely was using his own men to be the bad guy.
Okay, it's your turn to be the bad guy, and I'll be the Snidely Mountie.
I can't understand it. How do Snidely Mounties always get there first? Oh, if only Dudley Do-Right was back from his vacation.
What the inspector didn't know was that Dudley Do-Right was back. When he had gotten 2 blocks from camp, he had become hopelessly lost and had spent his first week wandering around in a circle.
Stupid.
Until he found he was right back where he started, except that there were now 2 camps.
That's funny. There was only one when I left. Now, which one is the RCMP camp? Well, I'll just let my horse lead me. They have an instinct about that sort of thing.
Hey, buddy, you better get into this uniform. You know how strict the old man is.
Oh, change of uniform, eh? Well, black is distingué.
Well, there's something familiar about you.
Lost a little weight, eh, Inspector Fenwick? By George, does you a world of good.
I've seen that face somewhere. Oh, well, doesn't matter. Snidely Mounties, listen, here's my plan. Now, the people despise the Mounties.
They wouldn't dare.
Where have I seen that face? As I was saying, the people despise the Mounties and have a deep affection for us, the Snidely Mounties. Now is the time for the great bank robbery.
Something is not quite right here.
Hurrah, hurrah! The Snidely Mounties are here, defenders of the right. Hurrah! Shut up and hand over the money. Yes, sir, Snidely Mountie, sir. If you ask for it, you must certainly have some good use for it. Yeah, like we're gonna spend it, all of it.
Oh, no, you're not, Snidely Whiplash. I am Dudley Do-Right of the Mounties.
I knew I'd seen that face before.
So you caught the Snidely Mounties robbing a bank and broke up the SWMP. But tell me, where's Snidely Whiplash?
Oh, I let him get away.
You let him get away? Why did you let him get away?
I remembered I still have 2 days vacation.
search for the Greenpernt Oogle, Rocky and Bullwinkle succeeded only in capturing each other. Then as they turned, they saw a huge boulder rolling down the mountain toward them.
Look out for that rock!
Hey, look! That's no rock! It's an egg!
An egg?
And look, there's a message inside it.
What's it say?
When you get this fortune egg, you'll climb the hill and shake a leg.
Well, come on, Rock.
And in a few moments, our friends had reached the top of the hill where Boris had tied and gagged the Oogle bird right in its nest.
But the Oogle managed to lay an egg and roll it out to us. Pretty clever, eh, Bullwinkle?
Yeah, for a bird brain, it's pretty smart.
Boris, you hear that, Oogle?
Duh, they found the bird.
What now, darling?
What else? It's time for fiendish plan.
And Boris explained his latest fiendish plan. As soon as our heroes launched their boat, he would cross the beach to a huge cannon, and as our heroes sailed away, would sink them with one well-placed shot.
And best of all, Natasha,
Yes, darling.
I do it when their backs are turned.
Meanwhile, our heroes had just brought the Oogle bird down the hill to the beach where King Bushwick the Thorty-Thoid was waiting.
Greetings, O repository of all knowledge. Likewise, O wizard. Now let's get started.
And the tiny boat started off for New Greenpernt. As soon as it had sailed, Boris and Natasha scurried toward the cannon.
At last, Moose and Squirrel's luck has run out.
Right, Natasha. You know, I never will understand how he could run through this minefield without getting blown up.
For that matter, darling, how can we?
How can we what?
Run through this minefield without...
Oh, boy. Natasha, stop!
Yes, in his haste to sink our friends, Boris had run into his own minefield and now stood transfixed with terror right in the middle of a beach full of high explosives.
Don't move, Natasha. I'll throw a little pebble instead. Natasha, next time I get fiendish plan, do me big favor.
What's that, darling?
Shut up my mouth!
And so it wasn't long before Rocky and Bullwinkle sailed into the harbor of New Greenpernt to the cheers of the natives and of their friend, Captain Peter Wrongway Peachfuzz.
Hooray!
They're over this way, Jack.
Oh, of course.
Well, I guess we better be leaving for home, King Bushwick.
Oh, sorry to see you go.
And goodbye to you too, Oogle boy, bird.
Uh-oh. The Ooglebird wants to go with yous.
Yeah, it seems to have taken a liking to Bullwinkle.
But we need the Ooglebird. He's our wizard. Who's going to make our predictions for us if he goes?
Hey, I think I know just the solution, Your Majesty.
And so the next day saw the installment of a brand new Wizard of New Greenpernt, Captain Peter Peachfuzz.
But Rocky, he's never been right in his whole natural-born life.
That's just it, Bullwinkle. I told him to do just the opposite of what he says.
Yes, from that moment on, every Peachfuzz prediction was taken backwards with great success.
Weather report. Fair and warmer, continued sunshine.
Get your umbrellas, boys. It's going to rain cats and dogs.
Meanwhile, Rocky and Bullwinkle sail into the sunset with a valuable new friend.
That's an Ooglebird prediction, folks.
Meaning what?
Meaning, be with us next time, won't you, if you're a boy or girl, to see the further adventures of...
Rocky the Flying Squirrel.